right. What's up, Jesse?
What's going on?
Not much, man. Here for the start of our technically first introduction to third-party podcast. So why don't you kick it off?
Oh, am I supposed to talk? Is that what I mean? I thought I was just here for looks and stuff. No, we kind of talked about. There was a lot of stuff we talked about. I mean, originally, I've had this. I mean, it's just a ridiculous idea, really. It's like, hey, let's start a third party, as if we could just do it, right? Because I mean, as if these things are just organic. Because it seems like there's just so much. The only way you can even have a party, because I mean, look at these other parties that have been here for 100 years, right? They can't even get 1% of the vote, and they have millions of dollars. So you think what could be done? I mean, everything is Democrat and Republican. They have, I think Hillary raised 1.3 billion in 2016, and Trump raised something like 700 million, which
But how much did Bernie Sanders raise?
Yeah, and Bernie Sanders, and that's the thing. And that's the thing you'd actually have to really tap into to even create an additional party. But yeah, the idea originally was well, what about a third party? Just because it seems like we listen to a lot of Tim Pool, and he talks about being politically homeless.
Yep.
And that's where I've been. I'm more like the classical liberals. On most issues, like the actual classical liberal definition, the freedom of speech. I mean, very heavy First Amendment, very heavy
Non-establishment.
Natural rights kind of ideas, things like that. Where you got small, limited government. That isn't in your business all the damn time, and things prior Patriot Act. Things like that.
Very much so. I mean, we have, like I keep telling everybody, and Jimmy Dore actually hits on this too, is you got to stop voting for these guys, or they're just going to keep getting the tickets. And eventually, I mean, if you look at Abraham Lincoln, he's stumped on the corner as a nobody and prayed to the masses and preached his good word. And I think individuals such as Tim Pool are taking off right now because they are politically homeless and people are identifying with them. Because you have people that were liberal that are now swaying over to voting for something like Trump because they don't like the direction of the Democratic Party. Then you got people like me who've always been independent, always been registered as an independent. I've never been registered Republican. I've never been registered Democratic on the Democratic Party. And so when you look at those two ideologies, I don't fit either of them. Even, when I come out, we do those political tests for fun. I'm always left center. And I think most individuals are left center, especially our age group are left center, because I
think our age group would probably so.
We grew up in an area where, or an era where, everyone has a flat screen TV in their house. Everyone has means to them, but we're still impoverished, or we have that ideal in our heads that we're impoverished. So it's like, no party speaking to us. No party is representing the working people. Each party is still pushing wars. Each party is very imperialistic. Each party is very non-worker. The Democrats push stuff like TPP, trade acts. George Bush Sr. couldn't get a free trade act passed, so guess who did it? Bill Clinton. Democrat, Republican, still pushing the same ideology, still screwing over average Americans, and that's what we need to change. And that's why I like the idea of a third-party podcast, because we're going to talk about articles with Andy on Sundays, and we're going to dive into kind of like politics as it is going on Nature Now, but we're also going to be talking about why we need a third party. And we need it because we need to find a home. And I think that people need to listen and join the table talk, because that's where politics started. Politics started where you weren't breeding politicians. You weren't having George Bush 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We don't need that. We need table talk. We need and young people like AOC, even though I don't agree with a lot of stuff she says, but we need people like her to get into the system and then not follow the party line like she's doing now. Stop following the party line. Stop towing that party line and be you. Be progressive. Don't follow the established politics. And if you lose your title and if you lose your Senate seat, who cares? At least you said that you fought out and you went out on your shield, and that you didn't go out towing the party line, voting for a stimulus that gave trillions of dollars to corporations and nothing back to the people. That stuff irritates me, and this is exactly why we're doing this podcast.
Well, I think at the bottom line, even if you were someone who was like, okay, I plan on voting Democrat or Republican anyway, at the very least, like, because if you just, if it's going to be like, hey, who are you going to vote for, me or the other, like if you're just going to keep falling on the one side and you're just going to keep voting without making them, without actually getting any concessions out of it, then you just, I mean, what you have no power. You have no. Jimmy Dore he does such a great job of explaining that, where these liberals are just like, no, we're going to vote for Joe Biden. Like, no, you should you should hold out to get something, and make them earn your vote. You can't just give these people your vote just because, well, I have to vote. I have to vote for Republicans or Democrats. I got to do something. And it's like, well, there's really, the choices are really not that different because, I mean, the wars are the same way. I mean, you thought, I mean, I thought that one thing Obama would do was get rid of the Patriot Act. And of course that didn't happen.
Nope,
and
still here.
I don't see Trump getting rid of it.
It's allowing Trump to go send federal troops in
to
Portland. It's
exactly.
That Patriot Act is allowing Trump to do all our stuff. And Nancy Pelosi, guess what Nancy Pelosi just did? She just re-upped the Patriot Act again.
Oh, I didn't even hear that.
2 months ago, they just re-signed it in.
Yeah.
So, bullshit.
Because it was that piece.
Bullshit.
Well, we probably watched the same video about Jimmy Dore, and I think it only came up like a piece of the Patriot Act. It only came up like, I think, one vote short of being repealed. And one person who didn't vote in that was Bernie Sanders. He wasn't there for some reason. I don't know if it was like a COVID problem or whatever it was. But he didn't
he's
go.
Been like this his whole career. He's a career politician. And you know what? When he didn't stand up the second time, the Democratic Party screwed him over and didn't say anything. Screw you, Bernie.
I'd have way more respect.
People like Bernie Sanders, I have no respect for anymore because he needed to go out on a shield. He didn't want to end up like Ralph Nader. He wanted friends in the end. You know what? Go to your summer houses. Go live with all your millions of dollars. You know what I mean? You're not for the party of the people.
I would have way more respect for somebody who, because I mean, he could have done it. Like, he is a person that could have done it, right? Like, he could have went that extra route and potentially beat the Democrats. And I understand he doesn't want to split the Democratic vote. And I don't know what would happen. Some people say, oh, well, he would just get destroyed.
I'd rather
mean,
split the Democratic vote and at least have someone split the Democratic vote, have another 4 years of Trump, but at least you have a stance. Because at some point in time, Trump has completely taken over the Republican Party. Wouldn't you rather, as a progressive, have Bernie Sanders taking over the Democratic Party the next time around or somebody else following suit? But no, what you wanted to do is he followed the establishment line. He allowed this to happen. And now what's going to happen in the next election? What happens if Democrats lose this election because they're putting up a candidate that can't talk and that's hiding in his basement right now? And that's who the Democrats have to vote for? You want me to vote for Joe Biden? Are you kidding me? I mean, no. I'm good. I'd rather vote for a third party.
Well, I mean, because why? I mean, if you assume that both parties are wrong, then why are you voting for him? And so if he's going to tell me that Joe Biden or Hillary Clinton, like the whole how Hillary Clinton screwed him over and then he still backed her was very upsetting, right?
Yep.
Like I get the whole idea of like, okay, you want to push unity. I understand wanting to do that, but is that the right idea? And I think a lot of the people that back him don't want that either. Like, I mean, maybe we need a little more disunity because why are people voting for these parties that do not care about them?
The time for unity is over.
I just don't think I think the two-party system should die. And I don't think that either party really gives a shit about anyone.
No. They're all the same. They vote the same. Look at what Trump's been able to get passed under a Democratic House.
Yeah.
Tax cuts.
Yeah.
Immigration. Criminal justice reform. Which I'm sorry, but it didn't really do anything. I mean, he can tout whatever he wants to tout on it. I'm still not a fan of the criminal justice reform because it doesn't go far enough.
It seems pretty weak. I mean, it doesn't seem like there's a whole like it. One criticism of Trump is that he does things, but it's really just about looks sometimes. So like he'll do an executive order, but it's not necessarily sometimes there's no teeth there. It's just symbolic, and that's what you get. And I understand it, but at the same time, it's like, okay, we need more shit than just symbolic stuff.
But so here's my problem, and here's what's frustrating is when you bring these ideals up to people and they want to point at you, well, you're just going to elect Trump again. No. I don't care if he gets another 4 years because at the same time, if we fight now to create something better in the future, I'm sorry, the country's been around for how long? It outlasted tyrants like Bush for 8 years. You're telling me we can't make it through another 4 years? That's going to completely dismantle that. That's what they're pushing right now. That's their only message, that Trump is the most dangerous president ever. Trump wasn't pushing stuff like the TPP to undercut the working class of America, ship more jobs overseas. Trump wasn't pushing that.
Brant wishes he was here right now. He's like,
well,
he's always pushing the TPP. He's
I know,
always doing it.
Because
And I'm
Brant
like,
doesn't
dude.
care about the working class. He cares about.
Well, I don't want to call him completely out because
But-
he's not here to defend himself.
But we've talked multiple times about this, even on the other
Yeah.
podcasts. He's for automation, and that's what it's going to do. But more than that, it also takes away people's rights for generic drugs to get produced. So it's taken a way to buy more pharmaceutical stuff that Andy would be able to talk about. But
You know, there's pieces of TPP I know about, but I can't say that I'm a genius when it comes to TPP, but I do know what NAFTA did to the country, and I do know how it hollowed out the middle class when that
look at
happened.
Detroit.
And in one group of people that should be pissed off about it, it's actually black people. You
Yep.
know, it helped move a lot of those factories out of a lot of these major cities, helped hollow out the black middle class, and just middle class in general. There's a lot of areas that we took the factories away from and we sent them somewhere else just to save money. And yeah, is it better for our bottom dollar, for the country, like for the stock market? Yes. Shareholders, oh yeah, shareholders are real happy.
And I don't have
But it just crushes America. And then look at the opioid addiction problem. And of course, they're linked. I mean, all that stuff is linked.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is you start tearing apart families, and that's a problem that the Republicans, they want to say that, hey, we stand on family and courage, and we're gonna get the nuclear family back together. Bullshit. They don't stand on family, and I don't think the way they vote now and the way the Democrats vote now, no, they don't. They're still we just upped another trade act with Mexico and Canada. And I know that was a big achievement for Trump, and that's something that he touts. And I'm not lying that the economy's been doing good under Trump, and that he hasn't done things to move the economy forward.
Yeah, the USMCA or whatever it's called.
But still, I mean, it's just like we need to bring more jobs home. We need to focus on America. And Bernie had a real good message, and then he just petered away again. And I'm sorry, I have a hard time respecting somebody that has been in office for 44 years. Joe Biden's been in office for 44 years, and you look at stuff like the Crime Act of '94, and I'm a degree in criminology, and I can tell you right now, the mandatory sentencing that came along with that destroyed middle class families. A lot of the other stuff that came along with the Crime Act, and allowed them to specifically target certain communities and break them down. I'm sorry, they're still pushing that, and because guess what came along right after that? Oh, we had 9/11, and boom, here came the Patriot Act. And
Yep.
who abused it? Bush abused it. Obama abused it with all the metadata stealing. Look how we've treated whistleblowers. I'm sorry, it's like we're getting the re-upping the Patriot Act again is pushing us more into a tyrannical state than ever before. It's almost each president is creating a step for the next
and that's
dictator.
but we said that at the time. I mean, I know we were younger, but we said that at the time. We said that during Bush, and people were just going to said it during Obama. And people were like, "Oh no, Obama's not doing that." It's like, dude, you give all this power to the executive branch. Eventually, somebody's going to come along that you hate, and they're going to use it. And that's who Trump is. Fucking in walks Trump.
Yep.
And then everybody's bitching about it. Well, how can he do this? It's like, hey guys, we were talking to you. The last 10 years, nobody gave a shit. And they just weren't thinking about it. I get it. Like, I mean, maybe they thought everything was just going to be just fine. But
we got to get the terrorists. And
We have to get the
And
terrorists.
here's my argument has always been, when you start legislating the war on terror, that war never ends. When does terrorism ever end? When does
Never.
domestic terrorism ever end? Terrorism never ends. So you just granted without. Oh, they say, but it dies, and Barack Obama, he won't resign it in. Oh, guess what? You get addicted to power, and then the industrial war complex, they come knocking. Hey, we want our $1 million. We want our $1 billion contracts.
one of the things that's actually good about Trump is the whole. I legitimately believe he wants to get us out of some of these wars.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that.
Democrats and Republicans will fuck him at every step of the way. They don't even play around. Like, it's just not. They don't want that. They don't want that.
Afghanistan,
they want these.
just recently.
They want to keep these wars. That whole Afghanistan stuff, that fake story that came out, it ended up being proven fake. I mean, because because there was no actual backing. It was like, oh, no, Russians were paying Afghanistanis
the bounties? Yeah, dude,
You know,
it's
and
just-
it's like, wait a minute, because I waited on that story because I figured it sounded weird to me. It's like, well, why would you need to pay these people that want to kill our troops? Didn't make any sense to me either. And then finally, more and more information comes out, and it's like,
why wouldn't you just
no, I
give
don't
them
think this is
opportunities
right.
to do it? You know what I mean? Instead of paying them, you know, just
Dude, I mean, it never made a lot of sense. It's like these guys don't even need to be paid. So the Russians are losing money to try to pay these guys bounties who already want to kill the Americans. Like, I just,
I don't buy it.
I don't buy it either. And then it came out as bullshit. And then it came out that, you know, that basically less was known about that story. That was less confirmed, you know, than than they actually thought. It's whatever, man.
And I hate the way that we're now and the way people talk to each other, how volatile people are. And I'm not like a big Facebook like guru where I just get into it with people all the time, but I do not respect the people calling other people racist, and I do not tolerate that. I mean, these people, you don't know each other. How crazy is that? You are automatically judging people. Have you ever heard the golden rule, treat others how you want to be treated type of thing? You know what I'm saying? But like, you don't know other people, and you're automatically like just going after people. And I just relax, you know, really step back and look like these people are the ones that are trying to divide us.
Yeah.
I mean, look at their votes.
Well, I mean,
Nancy Pelosi, she didn't try to impeach George Bush. Hello.
no, isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? Like, she didn't try to, like, she could have got him, I don't know, on things like torture or other things. Like, I mean, just
She was complicit in torture.
yeah, just in all the stuff that happened to even get us in those wars. You know, like something like 100 to 500, hundreds of thousands of civilians have died in Iraq. You know, people that should have never died. You know, women and children, all kinds of people. It's like, no, we need to impeach Trump because Trump is a very serious threat. None of it makes sense, man. It just doesn't make any sense.
We talked about this before. You think they just would have taken him out if he was a Russian agent by now? Like, the government, I mean, here's another thing too, is Trump can barely keep leaks like inside his own, like there's a leak on everything he says. I mean, people think there's this big conspiracy going on with Trump, and I'm like, the dude can't keep a leak down.
No.
He's got the leakish. I'm surprised it didn't sink yet because his ship's so leaky.
Dude, it doesn't, none of it makes any sense. It didn't make any sense to begin with. You know, I understand he doesn't play ball the same way. Now, he still plays ball too much. Like, I wanted him to actually drain the swamp. Like, I would respect that.
Yeah, but he put a lot of people around him I didn't agree with.
Yeah, I agree with that. Because, I mean, like, John Bolton.
Oh, my God.
I mean, one of the stupidest decisions, but
Bolton.
thank God John Bolton is gone now. But then you see, like, John Bolton's writing
Trump?
books, you know, and
he knew he was a power grab.
If I had to guess, because Trump likes to display power, right? He likes to be able to like put people in certain positions that are hawks, so he can like use them as like a threat. And I feel like that's why John Bolton was in that position. It's just, you know, obviously it was a total failure, and John Bolton's a damn joke, you know. And I thank God he's gone, because it's just more people that want to, you know, you have the Democrats who are, you know, they want to take more control over people by, you know, taking more and more of your tax dollars and building these giant government apparatus, you know, apparati, whatever, and just building these huge structures, you know, and they want to control us kind of in that direction. And the Republicans want to control us more, you know, on the social side, you know, the more of the conservative, you know, no, you can't do this, you can't do that. You know, we need to ban this and ban that. And it's like they're two parties that are both trying to take away more and more freedom. And they just fight amongst each other, and we keep voting for them.
So what do you, as far as that goes, so where would you say, if you're on a spectrum, like, are you going to fall like more libertarian on the side? How would you define it?
The problem with being, because I mean, classical liberals are real close to libertarians. Just libertarians, admittedly, are a little crazy. And I don't think it's just the philosophy itself. I think that if you push it too far, it does get a little crazy, because I mean, like, you do need a government, and you know, I'm fine. Like, I don't think that we should eliminate all welfare, you know, or things like that. I mean, and I don't think we should privatize Social Security, because if nothing else, even saying that it makes people really scared, right? So I mean, it's like, okay, the government should provide some kind of bare minimum, you know, and maybe those are pieces of it, you know, and okay, totally good with that, you know. So I can't. You know, I'm somewhere between a lot of those pieces. It's just I'm also the biggest problems, is I'm anti-war is one of the things. Of course, that I'm pro-life, but I'm not for pushing crazy laws either. I think the way we, not to get on abortion, but the way we get abortion done is by helping the families, like helping them where they need help to get fewer abortions. I think that's the way to do it because they just fight back and forth about the laws of it, right? But if we actually fix some of the reasons why it happens, then you get fewer abortions.
Yeah, and I think that too is like
you don't have to do everything with a law.
Having a kid at a young age, it completely ruins your life. I mean,
there's things that we can do. And that's why I'm saying I'm not
child
against
programs
welfare.
in this country are terrible.
Yes.
Like adoption programs in this country are absolutely awful. It's way too expensive. I mean, there's things that you can fix to better situations for sure.
So my whole if I were running for president, my whole thing would be about the American family. I think we should give more incentives for people to marry, for one, because I mean, the more I've seen studies on men marrying more often, that they're less violent, that they commit less crimes or fewer crimes. There's good things about having a family unit, like for society. There's benefits, and there's certainly benefits to have 2-parent households. So I think that we should, I think we should give additional, more than double the one we do now, like incentives to marry.
Tax incentives for sure. Yeah.
Give them, make sure those people are married. Give them more incentives, so they don't give them more incentive to stay married than for them to divorce, and get rid of some of these divorce law stuff. Because I mean, once you set up I think like custody disputes, I think everything should be 50-50. No money paid any other way, no alimony. Because if you do all that stuff, you're incentivizing divorce. So we're not promoting marriage, and we are also incentivizing divorce at the same time.
And I
say incentivize marriage and don't incentivize divorce. I don't want people stuck in bad marriages, but I mean, it's like, okay, if we want a better society,
Ben Shapiro said something good today is people should realize, and Tim and Joe Rogan were kind of going back and forth about this, realize when you're ready to get married.
Yes. Oh, no, I thought that was pretty good.
I thought it was pretty good.
So you listen to that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, the whole podcast was pretty good. But realize when you want to get married and you make that choice in life, and because once you make a choice like, hey, I want to marry somebody, your ideal is kind of find it. And you're going to have ups and downs with people. You're going to have disagreements. There's going to be challenges and there's going to be trials and tribulations. But, you talk with your partner and you get over all that stuff. But, and I am pretty liberal on this part of it, but like I'm 2-parent households that could be 2 men, 2 women.
Yeah,
I don't care.
I don't care. Yeah, I'm totally fine with
We need two people that are raising a child, because here's a problem with one single person. And my mom was a single mom for a little bit, and my dad too. And here's a problem with that is it's hard because it stresses you out because you're spending a lot of time, working, and some of these parents have 3 jobs. And they're trying to put food on the table, and the stress of having 2 people making one decision. Like, hell, even with my dog Comanche, it's like when something's going on with him, like, oh man, I'm going to have him by myself all the time. I'm going to have to walk him every day. I'm going to feed him.
Yeah,
I know it sounds
exactly.
stupid,
No,
but
like
those little micro things, like having a child is amplified.
Yeah.
And then so we need 2 people. We need to incentivize it. And I know Ben Shapiro's not big with the state into marriage, but I'm very big into, hey, listen, let's double it at 50, you know what, 50 grand. Hey, why don't we give people money? We need to really focus on the family structure. And I think once you do that, and people are going to find out that if they're in a family structure and that they're happier, that a lot of this ancillary other bullshit will go away.
Well, the thing was because you got one way or the other. It's like, okay, because there's some conservatives I listen to, and they're saying, okay, eliminate a lot of these out of wedlock births, they skyrocket right around the same time as welfare, right? Mm-hmm. And in some way that's true, and I think that welfare does play a role because I mean, if you think about it, I mean, it's like, okay, I don't have to deal with this person's bullshit, and the government will help me survive. And it makes sense. Like, I get it. So some of those marriages that may not have been great marriages, but maybe also just too many marriages in general, are going to end because of it, and it's just the way it is. Well, but instead of so whatever we do, it seems like we should incentivize it more than the welfare programs incentivize not being married. Because like some of them are like, well, okay, if you're a single, so you can't have your boyfriend live with you. You can't be married, so you just have to cohabitate. Well, if you cohabitate, you're much more likely to break up, or if you get married, I think you're still more likely to divorce. So
I think Ben Shapiro said, and I don't know the actual facts on this, but excuse me, he was saying that people that live together longer actually divorce or have a higher divorce rate, like an 80%
I believe
divorce
that's
rate.
true. I believe that. I think,
'Cause
I
Monica
think it's
and
real
I-
close to like double or something like that.
Like we met on Tinder, and Tinder, and we didn't really live together, but we were married within a year and a half. But
Yeah, I don't think that's. I think he's talking about like extended cohabitations.
no, he's talking about like 7 years. And
Yeah,
like
he's
10
talking about years. Yeah. And those people are very, they're very not likely to stay together. I mean, I don't know all the reasons why.
That's not every couple, but
Jordan. Well, yeah, it's just on average. Jordan Peterson talks about it as well, and it's statistically it's true. Why is it true? I don't know. And then of course, people that have had more than one divorce, they're much more likely to be divorced in the future. But that's also probably just because
they've been through it.
Yeah, they've
before.
already been
It's
through
not
it. So
scary.
obviously, there's not that stigma because some people might be like, no, I can never be divorced. And others, once you have a couple divorces, it's like, well, shit, so they're much more likely to divorce, a
think
third time and more.
I think the family fixes so much, because if you look at statistics and you look at crime, you look at poverty, a lot of it points back to single female-headed households.
Yeah.
And there's a book I have on my shelf that I read right when I graduated college, and I was starting to. We were throwing around think tank ideas, and I was really into fatherless. The book's called Fatherless America, and it really it talks about how the disparity of female-headed households and what that's doing to America. And some of it is our criminal justice reform, and some of it is bad laws that have been passed that are not good for social justice. But I think overall, it's like America. We look at images, and Joe Rogan was talking about this. You see a hot girl next to a hot car. That means if you have that car, you're hooking up with that hot girl, and it's always in our face. And I think that's some of it. But we really in pushing the family thing, I think it's just it's not really pushed in schools anymore. You don't see it.
I think
much.
I mean whatever party I would be involved with is the party that's going to rebuild the American family. And actually. And actually work towards that goal. Like not just haha, and I don't even care. Maybe taxes do need to be raised a little bit. Maybe some things do need to be taken care of just a little bit. Not crazy, because I mean, obviously we need to make cuts in places, but we're not even if we're not collecting enough money to even pay for the stuff we're spending, and maybe perhaps we're spending too much, and we are, but. Of course, a lot of conservatives would be like, "Oh, the things we're spending too much on is welfare, or education, or something like that." It's like, no.
Taxes will go up more if two people are contributing. Women are more likely to work now in the workforce. But here's another thing too: is that another thing that goes along with being the family? Childcare is outrageous.
Yes,
it's bullshit that you have to pay $800 a week or $800 every 2 weeks, whatever it is, to put a kid into pre-K, so two parents can and
that's part of the thing.
It's
so,
ridiculous.
So one of these things, because I mean, I think that we also need to help people that have children. How can we help with childcare? What can we do? Like, can some of this stuff be put towards childcare? I'm not sure what all we can do on that, but I mean, either way, that has to be the focus, because two-parent households. If you don't have a father in the home, they're much more likely to have mental illness. They're much more likely to drop out of school. They're much more likely to end up in prison. Much more likely to live in poverty their whole life. All that stuff, and it just makes sense anyway. It's just pretty obvious. If you have one parent and one person bringing in money, you're more likely to live in poverty.
Yep.
So I think if we start, I mean, my whole thing would be the American family first kind of a thing. Because I think if you can work on individual family units, you eventually, when that keeps going and going and going, you make a better society.
Yep. Well, I think those are some good starting off points. What we think a third party should encompass. There's a lot of good points we went over, but we're running out of time. Do you want to add anything?
No, just the bottom line, man, is I just don't see either party of the major two parties caring about your average American. I think they care about shareholders, and grand ideals and things that are not your everyday people. And that's what it really just pisses me off.
Yep. The third party should be for the people, everyday people.
Yeah.
All right, man. Talk to you soon.
All right.
See ya.